Hey friends, my name is Gio, and today I'll be sharing a workflow time-lapse that incorporates sketching in Procreate, stable Diffusion AI art generation, and using Figma as a bridge between them for a comic book project. Along the way, I'll share a story about how I went from a broke, starving artist to a six-figure design career working in tech, how to keep your creative spark alive for your personal projects, and how our AI-driven future is opening new career paths for creative professionals. So let's dive right in. Storytelling. What a joy to be immersed in a good story, the best of which are vehicles not only for passive entertainment, but for teaching life lessons and mindset, for bringing beneficial change in the heart of the person enjoying that story. But damn, it is so hard to produce them, so much energy, and the rate of reward is just not very sustainable for most independent creators with some rare exceptions. And even when you're working with a team, people who have worked in creative studios know how quickly the funding can dry up and dissolve the business. But what if this was starting to change? What if the old rules don't apply anymore? What if the wave of new generative AI tools empowers artists and creatives to break free from this pattern? This is a page from a sci-fi story I'm making about imprisonment and liberation and transcending trauma. They say, write what you know, but I want to say up front that I don't truly know what it means to be incarcerated in the literal prison system. As a writer, I've been doing my best to approach it and research it responsibly before making a story about it. In particular, the story of Khalif Browder really moved me and motivated me to write in this setting. But beyond the physical setting of a prison, one of the themes I wanted to explore is how imprisonment comes in many forms, physically and mentally, and what wisdom we can draw from psychology and spiritual traditions about being liberated inside ourselves. And I want to relate that to the practice of drawing and painting and creative practice in general. Within the boundaries and limitations of a blank page, we have the freedom to play. We are creatively liberated. As a kid watching animated stories and learning to draw with crayons and markers, there was such a sense of wonder that came from swirling together all those interests and memories and creative influences, and letting that imagination run wild and unfurl onto the page, giving birth to something new and original of your very own. But that phase doesn't last long, does it? Because most of us quickly learn that we're trapped in a world that demands spending the majority of our time working to keep the bills at bay. If you're an artist and you're dead set on making your art into your career, that means you'll be working to bring other people's stories and visions to life. And hey, that's great, your art is your trade and you'll improve it that way. But what about your stories? Your personal work, the creativity that moves through you almost with a life of its own. Growing up, I loved epic fantasy illustrated children's books, then comics and video games. I mean, playing games on a Saturday morning was just the best feeling, absorbing these interactive narratives. And I always feel like every single story I absorbed was mulch for my own stories, my own imaginations. And I knew what I was meant to do. I was to be a storyteller. But when I hit young adulthood and left the nest to find my way in the world, economic necessity steered me away from comics as a medium because it was just too much effort with too little support. So I tried out other paths. I joined a startup, a team of people who were united in the shared vision of the stories we wanted to tell together. But it went the way of most startups and fell apart. I spent a few years getting by as an independent artist because it was a much shorter leap to sell a giclée canvas print or take on a graphic design commission from friends in my network than it was to earn a living telling fully realized narrative stories. But the real wake-up call came when my car broke down and I didn't have enough in the bank to get it fixed. Between that and all the ways that being broke were impacting my core relationships, I knew I had to face reality and get an actual capital C career that would support and provide for me in the longer term. In the course of starting to learn how to code, I first heard about UX design as a career path, and that seemed to take advantage of all the digital creative art skills I had picked up. So I took a couple of super affordable courses from a couple different teachers, and I kid you not, 2 months from the moment I first heard the word UX designer, I was hired as one full-time, and before I knew it, I was earning a six-figure income, more than I ever had in my life. It still kind of blows me away that life shifts like that are possible if you're open to them. I pushed through the first few weeks and months of imposter syndrome and just kept honing my skills with further study and practice on the job. I had finally found real financial stability and prosperity, and it's hard to overstate the relief of that, coming from a creative background where things can get lean real quick. But we all know money and fulfillment aren't the same thing. So while I no longer felt trapped by the starving artist lifestyle, now I felt trapped by the grind of the daily rush hour commute. I wouldn't let myself quit exercise or martial arts class because those were the things that sustained my physical health and counteracted the commute and sedentary desk job. But as a result, there still wasn't time in the day to find a quiet few hours for drawing or painting at the end of working a 9 to 5, much less the creative juice in the tank for quality personal work. And I chafed at that. I started taking the bus to work to have even just a little time to write my story script, chipping away at it. Fast forward to when remote work became a mandated part of our daily lives practically overnight. Suddenly, for a lot of us, there was no commute anymore. And that meant in some ways our homes became our prisons, but for me, it was like the clouds parted and this ray of hope and sunshine shot through the dread of the early pandemic atmosphere because I could finally be in that creative zone again. No place to go, stuck at home, I could find that 2 or 3 hours in the evening to do whatever I wanted. And what I wanted to do was to pick up that script and start drawing it. I was imprisoned in one way, but liberated in another. And it felt like there was something useful there, something worth writing about, worth committing countless hours of drawing and painting. As I started sketching pages and then experimenting with finishing them in full color, it continued to sink in that this really would take countless hours to bring this story to life in the way I imagined. Even so, I kept chipping away. Then Midjourney and Stable Diffusion erupted onto the scene, and the equation changed yet again. Suddenly an AI artist can produce a huge volume of images quickly. And I know that there is an important and complicated debate happening in the art community about the ethics of AI art and copyright, and that people have really strong feelings about it. And as someone who has had their copyrighted art stolen and used without permission countless times across multiple countries, I totally empathize with the passionate voices that are speaking out against current AI models. But at the same time, the storyteller in me is just so captivated by the possibilities that AI unlocks for creative professionals that I can barely look away. I mean, look at how quickly these tools are evolving in leaps and bounds. Images, animation, video, audio and voice production, 3D modeling and code. We are living through this amazing Cambrian explosion of tools and capabilities for digital creatives. So now as I work on these comic pages, I'm not even thinking I'm gonna finish this page now. I'm thinking, I'm going to get this page good enough until another month or two goes by and there's a new update that will let me feed this page into a tool and use it as a starting point that lets me just speak my imagination into existence. So when I see tools like Firefly that promise fully ethical datasets and conversational editing where you can just ask the AI to change elements of your art to match what you have in mind, it just brings back that sense of wonder I had as a kid with markers and crayons, looking at a new sheet of paper and seeing a landscape of infinite possibilities to play in, to dream in, to share with my network. And it kind of makes me think that's the direction we're moving as a human species, that we'll be able to just speak or write our thoughts, and our AI filters and tools will bring them to life as animated hieroglyphics or a shared language of dreams. And the dreams that truly move people, the stories that strike a chord and stir our feelings, those stories will become our shared culture. I believe we're entering an age of creative liberation, where the old limitations on what it means to make a living as an artist do not weigh as heavily on that sense of wonder as they did before. So in this story that I'm working on right now, the main characters are incarcerated by forces outside their control, and those forces are using the dark side of AI to trap and extract labor from them, to exploit them. But these characters secretly have access to their own AI as well, and it gives them the ability to bring their dreams to life and communicate those dreams to each other to bring out the best in themselves, to learn and strive and become empowered by the adversity they face in a harsh environment, such that even their imprisonment becomes a vehicle for their own growth, their internal sense of freedom to be who they choose, and the kind of world they want to create together. That's the kind of story I want to live in my life, and what I hope to see unfold in our world in the coming years. Thanks for joining me on this little creative storytelling session, and thanks for subscribing and dropping a like if you enjoyed the video. I'd love it if you'd leave a comment and let me know what you think of this workflow time-lapse vlog format. Check out my blog in the description for more AI art and UX design content, and let's keep that sense of wonder and creative dreaming alive for each other. Peace out.